Good afternoon. I'm Abe.
And I'm Frank. And today, we're adumbrating the second half of Chapter 32, The Politics of Boom and Bust, in Bailey, Kennedy, and Cohen's The American Pageant textbook. Abe, care to start us off?
Yes. The Allied powers of Europe demanded the German reparation payments since they wanted to be able to pay back their debts to the U.S. Eventually, the Allies began to ask that their debts to the U.S. be scaled down or canceled. But President Coolidge rejected all suggestions for debt cancellation. However, reality struck with the Dawes Plan, under which a loan payment cycle was established. The U.S. would loan money to Germany, Germany would repay France and Britain would then repay the U.S. The Dawes Plan was never successful since in 1929 the American economy crashed and America was no longer willing to lend money to Germany. Now, Frank, could you describe in detail the election of 1928?
Oh, so much detail. The election of 1928 was fought between Republican Herbert Hoover, former Secretary of Commerce, and Democrat Alfred E. Smith, former governor of New York. Smith had two issues going against him from the get-go. First, he was Catholic in a highly Protestant country, and second, he was against Prohibition, which alienated him in the South. For the first time, radio was important as the candidates spread their message across the country via the airwaves. When the time came to count the votes, Hoover triumphed easily, winning 6 million more votes than Smith. Abe, tell me, what were some of President Hoover's first moves when he stepped into the Oval Office?
Well, a total of two groups didn't benefit much from America's booming economy: unorganized wage earners and two disorganized farmers. So, in turn, Congress passed the Agricultural Marketing Act, which set up a federal farm board to lend money to farm organizations that regulated agricultural surpluses. Soon after, the Hawley-Smoot tariff was approved and became the highest protective tariff in America's peacetime history. However, the tariff pushed America and Europe farther into debt and increased international financial chaos. But Frank, what finally brought the American economy crashing to a close?
Well, I'll tell you. On October 29, 1929, the house of cards that represented the American stock market came crashing down, as 16 million shares of stock were sold in one day. Initially triggered by a hike in British interest rates, the crash made horrendously worse by the use of buying on the margin, which we described in the last section. All told, stockbrokers lost $40 billion in a mere 2 months, and unemployment began to skyrocket. Abe, can you take me through in more detail what the causes of the Great Depression were?
Yes. First, overproduction by farms and factories. Second, a lack of money going to salaries and wages, decreasing purchase power. Third, overexpansion of credit. Fourth, technological unemployment due to labor-saving machines. Fifth, financial collapse in Europe. And sixth, farm drought in the Mississippi Valley. As a result of the Depression, towns of ragged shacks, or Hoovervilles, sprang up across America. Now, Frank, could you tell me how individualism manifested itself in America at this time?
Well, the president, Hoover, firmly believed that only this rugged individualism of America, that is, starting from the bottom and working your way up to the top, could help America and lift the country out of the Depression. He consequently fought hard against government assistance or relief projects in any way, shape, or form. And when he finally did decide to step in and help, it was in the lamest way possible. He proposed government help for corporations like banks and railroads in the hope that this help would trickle down to the common man instead of simply starting relief projects for the common man in the first place. So we've seen how Hoover's been very inefficient in tackling this crisis from the get-go, but did he ever change his policies and actually start to help?
He did. Finally, Hoover secured $2.25 billion from Congress for public works projects, most famously the Hoover Dam. However, Hoover still fought all socialistic schemes, such as the Muscle Shoals Bill. In response, Congress launched the Reconstruction Finance Corporation in 1932. This RFC was basically a government lending bank which loaned to everything except individuals. The RFC also profited many millions for the government and big business, so it was called the Millionaire's Dole. Soon afterwards, Congress passed the Norris LaGuardia Anti-Injunction Act, which forbade anti-union contracts and strike restraints. All in all, Hoover began the trend towards government assistance for its citizens, despite a hostile Congress. Now, Frank, how did the veterans react to Hoover's legislation?
Well, World War I veterans formulated a plan to ease their economic situation. They decided to march on Washington, D.C. and demand the government pay them their entire military bonus all at once, in order to get the money they needed to feed their families. Known as the Bonus Army, they resisted numerous attempts to dislodge them from their Hooverville until Hoover ordered General MacArthur to do so through use of force. This episode only further alienated the common man from the increasingly inept president. Abe, were there any notable foreign policy developments in the wake of the crash of '29?
Yes, it all started when Japan invaded China's Manchuria in 1931, violating the League of Nations covenant and stunning Americans. However, the League was hindered from taking action since the U.S. was not a member. However, the U.S. did pass the Stimson Doctrine, declaring that the U.S. would not formally recognize any territories taken by force. Even after Japan bombed China's Shanghai, America still had no real sentiment for armed intervention. World War II was thus born in Manchuria. Now, Frank, could you tell me how Hoover treated the nations of South America?
Absolutely. In the wake of the Depression, economic imperialism all but disappeared, since there was no surplus American capital to be invested abroad. Instead, Hoover advocated for goodwill toward America's southerly peers, and withdrew American troops from Haiti and Nicaragua. If nowhere else, at least in South America, Hoover is remembered fondly. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe.
And comment down below if you have any questions.
We'll catch you guys, as always, next time.